the 5090, the 5080, the 9070 XT, and even a second-hand 4090. On this video I'll explain my thought process of which I think is the best graphics card to get, all the pros and cons, and the reasons of which one I finally ended up buying and why. So keep watching because I'm betting that a lot of you feel exactly the same way as well. I have an RTX 2080 Ti. It was okay at the time, even though it was a complete rip-off at £1,400, but I got it in 2019, so I desperately needed an upgrade. I was tempted to get a 4090 at the time when it first came out, due to its huge leap in performance, but its 12-volt connector and the melting power cables really put me off, to where I didn't get one. I would have got it if it was 4 8-pins. I would have been worried if I'd left the PC running alone for a short time, never mind leaving it rendering at max power for hours while I went and did something else, but in the end I said no, I'll wait another 2 years for next gen and get a 5090 when it comes out. They would have to fix the 12-volt connector by then, right? So years later I'd saved enough money for it, and I was 100% sure I was going to buy a 5090 when it came out, just so I can shoot my gaming videos with the best graphics for my viewers, no matter what the cost, even if it was £2,500, even though paying that would be really painful. I was a perfect Nvidia customer in waiting. I'd picked my make and model when the company showed us the cards, and I was going to buy the Asus Astral, as I loved the look of it, and a 12-volt connector had rail monitoring, so it should be the safest. I was disappointed they'd scrapped the Strix brand, as I loved those, but I guess they want to charge more money for the Astral. I'd done my research and I knew the 5090 series would be using DDR7 RAM instead of DDR6. They would be using a faster 512 bus instead of a 4090's 384. That it would be using PCI Express 5 instead of PCI Express 4. And Nvidia had 2 years to work on the processor to boost its performance and add new features to make it even more powerful. So I was expecting the 5090 to be quite a big jump over the 4090. But after watching all the reviews, I was a bit disappointed. The 5090 was only a bit faster than the 4090, so it's more like a 4090 Super. It looks like Nvidia had scraped all the performance out they could from the current architecture, like Intel did with its CPUs, then push a shitload of power through it to show performance improvements, as it used 600 watts, with all those other tech upgrades not seeming to do much. It seems that only when they reduce the chip's nanometer, like we did with a 4090, do you get a huge jump in performance. So that's something to remember the next time you buy a GPU. But as I had waited so long and needed the upgrade, I still had to get one, though I was disappointed with the performance and unsure about it now. I'd watched a review from DeBauer about the Asus Astral's backplate fan being loud. This put me off as I needed a graphics card as quiet as possible, so people wouldn't hear it when I'm recording gaming videos. And the Astral's price was £2,700 then, £2,900 to £3,000 now, taking a piss. So I added a £2,600 MSI 5090 Supreme to my cart instead, as that should be quieter, and waited to think about it as I was not sure. My plan had changed and it still had the biggest problem of a 12-volt connector that Nvidia promised wouldn't melt. But 4090s are still melting to this day, and they only push 450 volts through the 12-volt connector. But the 5090s would be far worse as they use a massive 600 watts, which is a power cable's maximum limit, leaving almost no safety margin. And honestly, I kid you not, I looked into buying a new power supply with a power reader, a thermal camera, and a wire tester, just to make sure it doesn't catch fire, adding around another £1,000 to the price tag. There was only a few 5090s available at launch, and it seemed that more reviewers had them than were on sale to the entire global public. So it was a paper launch, with almost no stock available. So by the time I thought I'd risk it, I hesitantly clicked buy, but it was sold out. Your basket is empty! No! It's been expired and removed. Must have been denied, brother, sons of bitches. That's been denied.
Bitter.
I was a little relieved at the time, to be honest. And you shouldn't really feel scared of buying a graphics card when you're spending over £2,500. Later, I was really happy I didn't get the 5090. As I watched Buildzoid and DeBauer's video on the 12V connector, and they showed why it was so badly designed and dangerous, as all the pins were connected to one block, so all the power can go through one or two cables, instead of being spread out through all of them, and that's why the power connectors are melting. So I decided against the 5090. It costs too much and is not worth the money, the performance is disappointing, it's not worth all the hassle, stress and problems, the connector's bad and it's even more dangerous, in my opinion. So then I thought more about getting a 5080. At least that uses a lot less power and wouldn't melt, I hoped. It would be weaker, it wouldn't be the best, but at least it'd be safer and half the price. It would be a big upgrade over my 2080 Ti and it will keep me going. But I can use the money I saved from not getting the 5090 and get a 6080 next time. I was warming to that idea. Then the shit hit the fan across the Nvidia RTX 5000 series. Tell me in comments if I've missed any, but they had black screens, bad drivers, games crashing, melting cables on the GPU and PCU side for the 5090 and the 5080, one allegedly exploded, missing PhysX, bad thermals because all the components are close together on such a small board, and missing ROPs, to name but a few. That coupled with the ridiculously high price, and that are almost none available to buy, made the 50 series the most disastrous launch I think Nvidia's ever had. Following the terrible 4000 launch, following the terrible 3000 launch, following the rip-off 2000 launch, you have to go back 5 generations just to find a good one. The awesome 1080 Ti. I think that was the last Nvidia launch that did well, back in 2017. So with the 5000 series ruled out, how about going back to the 4090? Yeah, it's still got the bad 12V connection, but it uses a lot less power than the 5090, so it should be safer. And it's still got PhysX, and none of the other problems the 5000 series does. But when I looked, all the new 4090s had sold out. Everywhere. Because of Nvidia's incompetence, they'd stopped making them far too early. There was a huge shortage of GPUs, and no one could buy the high-end ones they wanted. I looked on eBay for second-hand ones for weeks, but all of them cost the same or more money than they were when they were new. You didn't know how they were used or abused, how many times a power cable had been plugged into the 12V connector and then unplugged, and they wouldn't come with warranty, so if it broke, was faulty or the 12V connector melted the power cables, that they are still doing to this day, I would be screwed and lose £1,700 to £2,000. So even with a 4090 being the best option over buying a 5000 series card, I could have just paid a few £100 more and got a new 5090 with a warranty. But with all its problems, I didn't want it. So what to do now? Here are my thoughts. I am a lifelong loyal Nvidia customer. Someone who has always bought only Nvidia graphics cards, going back many years throughout their life. I brought Nvidia because they were the best, the most powerful, they had the best features, software and drivers. Yeah, they cost more than AMD, but that's what we paid for. They gave us what we wanted and they were reliable. However, Nvidia of today is not the Nvidia we grew up with. Old Nvidia was a gaming graphics card company. That Nvidia is gone. They are now an AI, business, data center, server, robotic, software company that keeps their toe in the water of gaming graphics cards so they can brag at their presentations that they still make the most powerful GPUs, no matter the cost, how much power they use, or how unreliable, unsafe and dangerous they are, while pushing AI features we don't want or need. They are trying to sell us AI cards and pretending that they are gaming GPUs. Maybe because they are reaching the limits of what they can improve in raw performance, as they only have the jump to 2 then 1 nanometer to go, then what? So they are having to switch over to AI and software and fake multi-frame generation to show a performance increase in charts. I think that's why Nvidia wants to pressure reviewers to push multi-frame generation so much. Speaking of which, 1 real to 1 fake frame on slower games is fine, because AI can accurately predict the generated frame in the middle of the real ones. but when it comes to 4 fake frames to 1 real one, the gamers can tell that's some cope bullshit right there. I play a lot of first-person shooter games, so I would always turn frame generation off anyway, otherwise it would give you worse latency and display fake visual information, as 4 in 1 frames are just guessing where the objects and players are. What we're going to do for the next generation of GPUs. 10, then 20 fake frames for every real one, to fake a performance boost no one believes. All that multi-frame generation is doing is showing that you're struggling to give us real performance. And no one believes it. It's just another lie. For years, almost all Nvidia's income was from the sales of gaming GPUs. That percentage started to change as they introduced new products, but now gaming graphic card sales make around 10% of Nvidia's business and dropping, with much of their focus riding the AI bubble, as it brings in vastly more money than the gaming GPU market, making Nvidia a $1 trillion company. They are a public traded company, and they are legally obliged to make the most money for their investors as possible. That's why they don't seem to care about gaming GPUs very much, because their real money is in AI at the moment, not gaming, in my opinion. You might have only ever brought Nvidia GPUs before. You might be totally loyal to Nvidia, but they are not loyal to you. They don't even know who you are. So why be loyal to any company who doesn't know you even exist? Apart from seeing you as a line on a chart, going up or down depending if you buy their product or not. It feels like it's a pain for Nvidia to give us gaming GPUs nowadays, and every new graphics card release is terrible or a disaster going back generations. If it isn't that they sold most of the stock to crypto farming at the time, or that they put most of the resources into supplying AI, gamers are just thrown the crumbs of what's left, and that creates huge problems and stress for us when we're trying to upgrade or build a PC. You can see how little Nvidia think of gamers now by how little they talk about gaming GPUs at their conferences and presentations.
AI for a little longer than that. AI still the same. AI again. And AI how to do what I just described. And give the AI.
And speaking of which, we put up with the cringe, the unfunny jokes, and the bizarre, unreal statements.
You bring it home to your $10,000 PC entertainment command center. Isn't that right?
But they have now started lying to us.
RTX 5070, 4090 performance at 549. 5090, twice the performance of a 4090.
And that's when we stop believing in you, in your company, or anything you say. And putting up slides of fake frames trying to pass them off as real performance boosts doesn't fool anyone. The saying, give a customer what they want, comes to mind, but Nvidia seems to be ignoring that. We want GPUs that aren't a ridiculous price, we don't want fake performance. And we certainly don't want badly designed, unsafe 12-volt connectors that is even more dangerous now it pulls 600 watts. It's so bad that there's an industry starting up to try and stop Nvidia GPUs melting your computer. The Bauer and Thermal Grizzlies created a connection monitor, and Seasonic's making a power supply to check your volts and temperature to shut your PC off before it melts. Companies are putting time and money into this problem, as that's how certain we are that the 12-volt connection will melt. I'm pretty sure that gamers and enthusiasts don't want this connection, so maybe Nvidia's doing it for another reason, a business reason. Yeah, it's a smaller footprint, so it would take up less space on a circuit board than 4 8-pins, but probably because it's easier for them to set up an AI server if they just have to plug in one 12-volt connection instead of 4 8-pins. But only plug it in once, leave it in until the lifetime of that product's over, then unplug it. The cabling takes quarter of the time and there's less cables. You'll notice that I've not compared specs or performance on this video. That's because the main red line that matters to me is if it is safe and reliable or not. And if that isn't the case, then I, and I'm betting many others, will not buy it. I forgot that at the moment of the 5090's release because of the fear of missing out. I was hoping Nvidia couldn't balls up the connection again. I've been waiting for it for years, and I was so focused on getting the most powerful GPU, I was blinded to its possible problems. So, generation after bad generation of releases is enough. And quite frankly, I and many others I know are getting sick of this, and we've had enough of Nvidia's shit. Whatever loyalty they had built up is gone, and things just have to be better on the other side, with Team Red. The Nvidia company of old is not the same as Nvidia now, and that also goes for AMD Radeon. And that brings us to option 4. With the release of the RTX 9070 XT, AMD Radeon have turned a page on all their other GPUs, software and drivers. Whatever their hardware was like before, whatever driver problems they had years ago, a new dawn has started for AMD Radeon, and gamers are more than willing to give them a chance, as they seem focused and are now able to give great gaming performance from a GPUs with everything gamers need. High frames per second, good upscaling with FSR4, and finally good ray tracing. Plus video codecs, if you're recording videos or streaming. So they have everything gamers need. They seem to be able to play every game on max settings at 1440p, and it's only their mid-range GPU. AMD have managed to bring it close to the performance of a last-gen flagship, the 7900 XTX, on a smaller chip at a much cheaper price and with much better ray tracing, so it's a huge leap forward. So in the future, their next high-end graphics cards will be even more powerful. They are looking really promising. And for the first time, I'm more excited about what AMD is doing than Nvidia. They are showing that they want to support gamers. And in return, I felt like I wanted to support them back. However, I was a bit nervous of swapping over to AMD, as it's a huge risk for me. I'd never used an AMD graphics card before. I didn't know if it would be powerful enough to run intensive games like Arc. I didn't know if a video codecs would work with my editing programs. Although shadow play doesn't work half the time. When you use picture by picture on an ultra wide, it doesn't record and you have to restart your computer half the time, which was really pissing me off. I did try installing a new improved Nvidia app, but a push to talk didn't work, so I couldn't record anything and I had to go back to shadow play. I didn't know if my 3D or video editing programs would work with it, and if they didn't, I would be totally screwed, as making YouTube videos is my job. So if I had any problems, I wouldn't be able to put videos out, and it would cost me money and views and be a huge amount of stress. So for me, it is a huge gamble to buy an AMD Radeon 9070 XT. But being an Nvidia customer feels like you're in an abusive relationship. And I was so pissed off with all their shit over the years, I just had to take that chance. As it looks like Nvidia's still sticking with that terrible 12 volt connection. They'll use the same 600 watt or even more power for the next gen. Their cards will have even more fake features, and they are certainly going to be even more expensive. I just couldn't take another terrible Nvidia launch anymore, where you couldn't buy one. So I weighed up the pros and cons, and came up with this. The 9070 XT will be a big step up from my 2080 Ti, or whatever old graphics card you might have. It should be around twice as powerful, and it should keep me going for at least 2 years, until the next generation of graphics cards come out. The 9070 XT is pretty cheap for a good GPU, but if it isn't up to what I need, I'm not going to lose that much money. And I can always sell it on eBay if I have to get a different one. But because it's good value, I can get the mid-range AMD GPU now to see what it's like, if it's any good and does everything I want. Then if so, I can get a flagship AMD card next time. all my Nvidia friends wanted me to try out a 9070 XT as well. They wanted me to tell them what it's like, as they're also thinking of getting one, or they're going to switch to AMD when the next generation of GPUs come out. Plus AMD has far the best CPUs over Intel, so it would be really nice to have a full AMD system, where the CPU and GPU can work together to get even more performance. So that's what I did. I decided to buy myself an AMD Radeon RX 9070 XT with my hard-earned money. I'm switching from a lifelong member of Team Green to happily try out Team Red. AMD seems more honest. People are positive of what we're doing, and it's a hype for the new generation of their graphics cards. All AMD has to do is listen to their customers. As they did with the price of a 9070 XT, they will sell a lot and do very well. And that's my journey to buy a new graphics card. The short of it is, even if the 50 series didn't have all that huge list of problems, I would still buy an AMD graphics card instead, as AMD is catching up very fast to Nvidia, and their next gen flagship is looking to be amazing. And like I said, the 9070 XT does everything I need, while saving a great deal of money. It's a good time for me to jump in and try them out now, because as long as Nvidia still keeps a 12-volt connector and charging a ridiculous amount of money for the GPUs, they will lose more and more customers to AMD. And AMD partners, please stick to the 8-pin, as that's one of the main reasons now people are buying your GPUs over Nvidia. If you swap to the 12-pin connector, a lot of people will just buy the Nvidia cards instead, so it's your ace in the hole. I will be doing a series of videos on the 9070 XT I got, like which one did I buy, what's it like, its performance, the unboxing video, running benchmarks on it, and show you what games play like. So please don't forget to subscribe for that and click the bell notifications on all, so you get notified when I upload next. And if you're thinking of buying a graphics card now, but can't wait for those videos, spoilers, it's absolutely amazing. It's a bargain, and it plays every game on max settings at 1440p. If you want to know more before my videos come out, contact me in the comments and I'll get back to you. If this video was helpful, please like, subscribe if you've not already, and click the bell notifications on all to get notified when I upload next, and share it with your friends if you think they'll like it or help them out. Thanks for watching, and check out the other videos at the end. Goodbye.